Hi, welcome to Bar Cart Bookshelf, a video series about books and the drinks they inspire. My name is Elias, and today we're talking about The Atlas Six by Olivie Blake. The Atlas Six is a dark academic fantasy where six powerful magicians from around the world are invited to participate in an initiation for a secret society dating back to the Library of Alexandria. And it is just a deeply atmospheric, vibes-heavy, aesthetic-heavy book, as you're going to see in the drink that we're making. And I had a lot of fun with this one. I was a little apprehensive going in. Sometimes these dark academic works can either feel too much like work, especially when they're drawing on classics and the world of classical antiquity, or that they are pretending it's something that really doesn't exist. But the Atlas Six was a lot of fun for me, and I think a big part of that is that all of the characters are postgraduates. They're all about 22 to 28, because this initiation happens once a decade. You're drawing from people within that age range, but they're all past their undergraduate schooling, and so you have a sense not only of their power as magicians within the context of this world, but also that they're a bit further along into their adulthood, into what amounts essentially to being the world's spookiest masters program. And that's a lot of fun. As soon as I finished the Atlas Six, I immediately pre-ordered the second book, The Atlas Paradox, that's coming out this fall. So that's one of the more ringing endorsements that I think I can give a book to immediately be ready for the sequel. A lot of wonderful twists and turns, and some characterization that is both satisfying for a first volume, but also setting up lots of relationships and complications to deepen and expand in the continuing volumes of what will be a trilogy. So, I had a lot of fun with the Atlas Six. Highly recommend, even if you are apprehensive about dark academia and fantasy, and especially if you are a fan of that genre, because I think it is something that really plays with the expectations of the genre in a satisfying way, and was a lot of fun. Just devious, excellent people. You know, people who are competent and also a little bit nasty, and know what they want, but aren't always sure about the best way to get it, but willing to do whatever it takes. And so, without any further ado, why don't we see about making a drink? Our drink today is called Alexandrian Initiation. It's going to be a stirred cocktail inspired by the Atlas Six, and it's going to be a little bit of a magic trick. So, as I was reading the book, we saw a lot of these classic old world spirits. People drinking absinthe and brandy and scotch. Things that are signifiers of sort of the atmosphere that Blake is trying to create and succeeding in creating. And so we needed to bring those sorts of ingredients into the drink, and a couple of those little extra flourishes as well. The magic trick, though, is going to be taking this bottle here, this middle bottle of Islay Scotch, which is a really peaty, smoky kind of scotch, and a little bit heavy, and transmuting it almost alchemically into something really light and refreshing, and not doing that through the aeration that we get from shaking, but with the more supple texture that we get from a stirred cocktail. So, why don't we get started? I'm gonna start with our primary spirit. Got an American brandy here. You can use a cognac, as well, or an Armagnac if you wanted something that was a little more assertive. But the American brandy is really going to work quite well. Softer and more approachable than whiskeys because of the fruit base, while still bringing that sort of aged spirit quality to the drink. We're going to get an ounce of the brandy in there. It's wonderfully fruity and a little bit oaky. A really excellent base spirit. Next up, our scotch, that Islay scotch. As I said, it is really smoky, peaty, almost a sort of creosote quality, which I really enjoy, but in a cocktail is best served in moderation. It's something that can really quickly overpower other ingredients and be the only thing that you taste, and so we only want to use it sparingly, except in places where we're using it as a big, bold hammer, as we have seen earlier this year. But for our Alexandrian Initiation, we're going to get just a half ounce of that. And it's a lot paler, you'll see as I pour it into the mixing glass, than the brandy. Almost sort of sea yellowy colored, very pale, but some excellent flavor in there. Oh yes, now we get the infusion of smoke through our little bar area here. So we've got our primary spirits. Now we're going to want to add those modifiers. We're going to get a friend who we've seen very briefly so far. The Italicus bergamot liqueur, used it shaken up, waken up, and in some bright applications here it's going to add a bit of herbalness and brightness. Atlas Blakely, one of the characters in the novel, drinks a tea blend that has bergamot in it. And for some reason, I, very early in reading, skipped near to the back where he's drinking that tea, just flipping through the book, and that keyed into my brain. And so it was a sort of florality and citrus quality that I continued to see throughout the book. And so one that has appeared in today's drink. We're going to get a half ounce of that. So Earl Grey, citrus peel, a touch of sweetness because it is a liqueur, but a bitter sweetness to it, appropriate for the novel, as you'll see. Next up, got some black tea, strongly brewed black tea. I tried doing this with a tea syrup, but it ended up feeling a little heavy, and as I said, what we want is to make this light. And so we're going to get 3/4 of an ounce of strongly brewed black tea. No additional sweetener there, just some flavor, and perfect for a day at the library. You know, you've got to have your tea when you're in a manor house in England and studying the dark secrets of the universe. Tea's just the appropriate drink for that, wouldn't you agree? So we've got our tea, we've got pretty well all of our ingredients in here, nice sort of book cover brown to our cocktail, and we've got one last step to prepare our glass. Lovely. Absinthe, familiar friend, but in the spray bottle because we're not adding it into our mixing glass, but to our glass. Just a couple good sprays, about 2 to 3, just so you coat the inside of the glass. And we'll set that aside. Now before we get our ice in there, I do have, just for texture, some simple syrup. And we're going to get a bar spoon of the simple syrup in there. That's going to, if my bottle will cooperate, lovely. That's just adding a touch of texture because our tea, as I said, was not sweetened, just to balance things out before we get everything going. Now we'll add our ice. As always, adding ice last because that is what cooks the cocktail, and we give it a stir. I love the stirring in my mixing glass. It is really, of all of the sorts of things that we do, in preparing our cocktails, the one that feels the most sort of magical and alchemical. So for a book that is really about education and thinking about the pursuit of knowledge in fantasy, it's a fun technique to be using. It feels very wizardly. And that was really, what I wanted as a child. So here we are. Good. Now, as you can see, we've come basically to an equilibrium with the ice, which is how we know that we've gotten the dilution we want. Take our julep strainer, get that on. Love this little guy with the hitch, and we'll strain that into our cocktail glass. There we are. Set the mixing glass aside, and there you have it. The Alexandrian Initiation in honor of Olivie Blake's Atlas 6. The book is available now. Book 2 will be coming later this year in October. Got links to snag both of those down below, as well as a link to the Boston Shaker, where we get all of our tools and ingredients to make our drinks here at Bar Cart Bookshelf. Twitter and Instagram, where we have a written version of this week's recipe. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that little bell in the corner so you never miss an episode, because we've got new drinks, cocktails, and mocktails coming every Tuesday at noon. And we'll have a little fun surprise for you. Atlas 6 and Alexandrian Society enjoyers later this year. Try the drink. Let me know what you think, especially down in the comments below. I always love to hear what you all think of the drinks that we're making. And until next time, cheers.